We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more?
It's a tactic many stores are using to fill empty shelves at a time when the nation's experiencing major shortages of pretty much everything due to the supply chain crisis.
Consumer demand for milk is up amid the pandemic, but getting milk to the right store shelves has been a huge challenge for farmers.
The tactic.
Quiet shift can sometimes reshape an entire market long before anyone realizes it is happening. That is exactly what has begun unfolding across the United States, where a single line delivered during a political rally has started to influence what shoppers find in grocery aisles, what chefs can offer on their menus, and how importers plan shipments months in advance. A statement that was meant to project confidence is instead echoed through supply chains that were already strained, and its impact is becoming clearer each day. The full consequences are only beginning to surface, revealing a story far deeper than most expected. The moment the statement was delivered, the message sounded firm and unmistakable. Trump declared, "We do not need anything they have. We do not need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We do not need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more?" On its surface, it appeared to be a straightforward claim rooted in national strength and agricultural independence. The idea he conveyed was simple. America produces plenty of dairy. So why rely on Canada at all? That confidence immediately created a wave of reactions across a country already dealing with ongoing disruptions. Demand for dairy product had been rising since the pandemic, and shelves in many places had become unpredictable. Supply chains were struggling to keep up with shortages in everything from packaging to transportation. Even grocery stores that had never faced serious disruptions before were suddenly scrambling to maintain inventory. In a system that was already fragile, any shift in trade expectations added another layer of stress, especially when the uncertainty came from the top of national politics. Trump repeated his message at multiple events, reinforcing the idea that American dairy production was more than sufficient. He insisted, "We do not need the other products. We do not need their milk. We have a lot of milk. We have a lot of everything." To many supporters, the statement sounded strong, direct, and forceful enough to justify major changes in trade policy. He pushed the argument further by saying, "I will tell you what a high tariff nation is. Canada. Canada charges us 250% for our milk product and other product." Every part of this rhetoric suggested that American dairy could stand entirely on its own, free from Canadian imports. But the reality hidden behind the supply chain was far more complicated. While the United States produces enormous amounts of cow's milk, the issue is not basic milk production at all. America relies heavily on Canada for specialized dairy product that require unique farming conditions, long-standing expertise, and artisanal techniques. These include goat cheese, sheep milk cheese, soft-ripened varieties, and high-quality specialty products that American farms do not produce at the required scale or consistency. These items may seem small compared to the overall dairy market, but their importance is considerable. Families buy them every week. Restaurants depend on them for signature recipes. Grocery stores use them to fill premium sections that attract loyal shoppers. Much of this specialty dairy comes from regions in Quebec and Ontario, areas known globally for exceptional cheese-making traditions. American farms predominantly focus on cows, and shifting to goat or sheep is not something that can happen overnight. It requires new land, new equipment, trained workers, and years of investment. When Trump's comments reached businesses, the initial reaction was not political, it was logistical. Even without an official policy change, the mere suggestion of cutting off or reducing Canadian access triggered quiet concern. Importers began calling Canadian suppliers to understand what might happen next. Restaurant owners reached out to distributors for updates on pricing and availability. Grocery chains started re-evaluating their long-term purchasing plans. In supply chains, uncertainty is one of the most expensive risks. The possibility of disruption, even without immediate action, was enough to spark precautionary behavior. Some retailers increased their orders to secure extra stock. Others preemptively raised prices on select cheeses, predicting shortages within weeks or months at the same time. The United States was already dealing with worker shortages, transportation delays, rising fuel costs, inflation, and ongoing labor disputes. In an environment like that, even a small disruption could have noticeable consequences. Canada exported nearly $500 million worth of dairy to the United States in 2023. While that may not dominate overall trade numbers, its value lies in the specific products that Americans cannot easily produce domestically. Quebec's soft cheeses rival European brands, and Ontario's goat cheese industry has become a major supplier for U.S. grocery chains. Without these imports, stores lose variety, restaurants are forced to revise menus, and shoppers lose access to items they expect to find. Once political conversations turn toward the idea of reducing or halting Canadian dairy imports, fears of shortages spread through the industry. The United States simply does not have enough goat or sheep farms to meet national demand. These animals grow slowly, produce far less milk than cows, and require years of expertise to turn their milk into high-quality artisan cheese. No policy can accelerate that learning curve. Experts began warning that limiting Canadian dairy access would lead to higher prices and noticeable gaps in the market. Their concerns were not theoretical. They were based on the structure of the supply chain itself, a system already stretched thin and unable to absorb additional shocks. Canada supplies specialty dairy product to buyers all over the world and has no difficulty finding customers in Europe, the Middle East, or Asia. If the United States slows its purchases, Canada can quickly redirect its exports elsewhere without facing major losses. This flexibility gives Canada an advantage that many Americans do not fully recognize, and it is one reason the current tension is affecting the U.S. market more than the Canadian one inside American grocery stores. Early signs of stress are beginning to show. Some soft cheeses have disappeared entirely from dairy sections. Popular goat cheese brands now come with extended backorder times. Restaurants that rely on Canadian cheese for signature dishes have been forced to adjust recipes or remove certain items from menus to avoid depending on products that may not arrive. Grocery chains have already raised prices on imported cheeses because they expect future shipments to shrink or become less reliable. The longer uncertainty continues, the harder it becomes for businesses to plan, and the more noticeable the changes become for shoppers. The issue at hand is not the result of Canadian policy shift. Canada has not restricted its dairy supply or signaled any intention to reduce exports. The pressure is coming from within the American system, where political rhetoric has created the expectation that the United States can achieve total independence in every category of production. But food production does not respond to political slogans. It follows biological limits, investment timelines, and established market structures. These realities cannot be reshaped in a matter of months. Regardless of how confident a message may sound on stage, American consumers are beginning to notice the effects firsthand. Grocery store employees report increasing questions about missing cheeses and shrinking selections. On social media, users post photos of empty dairy sections or price tags that reflect sudden increases. Some families have started switching to lower quality alternatives or reducing their purchases altogether because the products they prefer are either unavailable or too expensive. Restaurants are dealing with irritated customers who miss their favorite dishes, and specialty food shops are worried about losing customers when their top-selling Canadian cheeses are consistently out of stock. Despite this, the political message continued to expand. The claims shifted from dairy to broader statements. America does not need Canada. We do not need Canadian trees. We do not need Canadian cars. The theme promoted the idea of complete economic independence, as if every cross-border industry could be severed without major consequences. Yet the reality is very different. The United States and Canada are deeply interconnected, especially in sectors such as food production and automotive manufacturing. Even minor disruptions influence wide-reaching networks of farms, factories, truck routes, processing facilities, and small businesses that depend on one another across the border. The United States undeniably produces an enormous amount of cow milk, but that does not mean it can replace the full range of products Canada supplies. Specialty dairy operates under its own rules and limitations. Goat farming cannot scale up in a short time frame. Sheep milk production is even smaller and requires careful breeding cycles. Artisan cheese production depends on aging facilities, controlled environments, specialized cultures, and skilled workers who have spent years mastering specific techniques. Even if new American goat or sheep farms began operating immediately, their first usable products would not reach stores for years. Once conversations about halting or reducing Canadian dairy import began circulating in political speeches, concerns spread throughout the supply chain. Importers worried about price spikes and shortages. Distributors began examining their inventories more closely. Retailers quietly adjusted purchasing plans, and many began raising prices in anticipation of possible disruptions. The United States simply does not have enough goat or sheep farms to meet national demand. These animals grow slowly, produce less milk than cows, and require specialized care. No policy or tariff can accelerate their production cycles. Experts started issuing warnings, explaining that reducing access to Canadian dairy would result in predictable shortages and higher prices. These warnings were not speculation. They were grounded in decades of data showing how fragile specialty food supply chains can be when a single link is disrupted. Canada, meanwhile, remained largely insulated from the potential fallout. Its dairy exporters have strong global demand and no shortage of international buyers. If the United States reduces imports, those same products can be sold to markets overseas without hesitation back in American stores. The strain continues to grow. Soft cheeses that once filled entire sections are now available in limited quantities. Goat cheese that used to be restocked weekly now arrives sporadically, if at all. Restaurants have stopped promising certain dishes because they cannot rely on the ingredients. Specialty shops fight to keep their regular customers interested despite dwindling stock. Each of these changes represents a small part of a larger shift, a sign of how deeply interconnected North American food supply chains truly are. The belief that the United States can quickly replace everything Canada provides overlooks the practical realities of agriculture and manufacturing.